It's, what day is it today? Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday the 21st of January.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen much from us. We've been a little bit, busy with Luke and also busy with the cosmic energies that seem to be
and a bit of driving.
us. And a bit of driving.
There's been a fair bit of driving around. We've been feeling some of the energy. I'm not an expert at this, but I know there's certain energies in play at the moment. I think in particular, Uranus. You always do that.
Why would they name, like, if the solar system wasn't like a representation of the human body, then they shouldn't have had a Uranus in it.
Well, anyway, that is in alignment with the sun. Again, not an expert on this, but from what I've been told, and this is kind of doing some push-pulling. Obviously, everybody's different, so it affects people differently. But and we're also heading to the first new moon of the year in Aquarius. So yes, we've been feeling it today, haven't we? Okay. We felt a little bit challenged today. We stayed overnight somewhere. Which didn't feel.
We were looking for a place that was the budget.
It was a very nice place. We just didn't really, we just didn't really feel it, and today was a tough day, but we've come through it.
I'll clip a little thing that I did driving before we got to Salisbury,
which is where we are now.
So we can. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do some activism.
Well, you'd hope to do some today, and then time got away. Us, and so we decided to stay in the area. It's a really interesting town. Obviously, a lot of history.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we'll get to show them a bit of that tomorrow, and you'll get to do some activism because the town seems to be quite vibrant, especially because people are coming here for all sorts of reasons.
No, we'll see what it brings. Okay. So, and I should say thank you for the donations. Jacqueline continued donations.
Continued donations.
The last one, and I'm trying to remember the other person's name. I'm sorry.
The last two before that, Jonathan Taylor. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say the surname. Apologize.
And that lady.
Oh goodness me! This is something that we found because it tends to be a little bit. We've been a little bit stressed. Our thinking and talking is hampered, and Dave's even noticed you actually can see with his head turned. He's got a little bit of facial alopecia since we've moved out of the house, and I think that's because it's not physically. We've not been in the best mindset to do a lot of self-care. Whereas when we were living at home, we had little routines that we would do, and time to do a bit of this and that obviously is good for our sense of well-being. That hasn't really happened a lot, and we're hoping in the months to come that we'll be able to find that again.
A bit of balance.
But the donations are we're most grateful for them.
We are grateful for them.
It does mean that we have been able to...
We have been able to stay on the road for a while, but it's not like, just so we're clear, it's not like, it's so much that I'm not thinking every day about, okay, how long can this kind of go on for? What's realistic? Is this, like Clint said, a flash in the pan?
I think we're in the infancy of what we're doing. Obviously, Dan's done activism before, and we did the Globe Light tour, but we're in the infancy of creating this thing that we're doing together, and so, and with it comes
eventually it'll be self-sustaining.
And the initial teething problems and uncertainties, and we are in a change. We're in changing times, so and we have a little boy and two older ones, and so we're just finding our way at the moment, and that can sometimes feel quite tricky.
Like almost like nerve endings that have been burnt. It can feel like that a bit.
Yeah, or I said it feels a bit like we're free falling, and I'm trying to find something to grab onto, and I know that if I just it's a bit like when you're on a roller coaster. If you just put your hands up and go with it, then it can be quite a fun ride. When you kind of try and resist the next twist and turn, then it can feel like a bit of a nail biting experience.
Yeah. But when you're a guy, and you guys will probably know this or have had experience with this, like when you're a guy and you spend a few days or whatever, you live in your car and you're on your own, it's kind of fun. But when there's a lady and a baby and a dog,
our lives.
Yeah,
we have to carry our lives with us at the moment because obviously the rest of it's in storage, and anything that we could possibly need, we have to carry in not a very big car. And then when you add another child to it, which we did this weekend with Luke,
who's bigger than me.
Obviously, we loved spending time with Luke, but it did compromise a little bit of space in the car. So then that makes it even trickier. But we're not complaining. We're just keeping it real. And we're obviously feeling a little bit better tonight. We've got a comfortable place to sleep for the night. We've got a plan for tomorrow, and that feels kind of good. Just to know with a little bit of certainty what's even going to happen in the morning. But so you're going to do activism tomorrow in Salisbury?
Yeah, I'll try and get a few hours of live action tomorrow, so look out for that. And I'll clip this video of a conversation I had earlier. It wasn't so great for me. I mean, the lady that she was like, I think she was like, her eyes were like, ooh,
I think it was great. Just by the way, sorry, I'm going to be telling Dave this while we're doing the video, but this couple were sitting behind me in the coffee shop, and I was listening to the conversation too, and they were talking about pyramids, and I almost turned around and said, well, because they were starting to say a few things that kind of were like, okay, well, it's not exactly how it seems, how history is and whatever. And then luckily Dave took the opportunity, which you normally do if you can, to chime in. So
I felt a little like embarrassed harpooning their conversation, because I don't think they were a couple, but it was like anyway. I'll play the video. I didn't catch the beginning of the conversation, and the last half of it or so, I'm only filming the ceiling because I didn't want them to know that I was recording the conversation, because I hadn't asked. And
I think what's interesting is it's another interesting way to it. I mean, besides the fact you harpooned possibly the date, but it's those moments where you can't help yourself but say something, and but it's another way of having a conversation with people, and that seems to be coming up a little bit recently without having to start with the earth is flat.
And I don't even get to that. I did give her a Paul on the plane business card, but
so it's quite nice to talk about some of the other things that are hopefully lead you to that anyway. And
she was like, this was great addition, because she'd been swimming in the Graham Hancock pool, and that's only a limited lake of knowledge. So mud floods and all sorts of mysteries about our
just a side note, we ended up staying just outside of Glastonbury, so we were in a coffee shop that we had been to when we were there on the last
day, informal last day of the tour.
Extra day of the tour.
The extra day with Jack and Lisa.
And we went back to the same coffee shop, and partly because we knew that they would take dogs, because we have Pebbles along, so that's a necessary, and it was cold, so we didn't want to sit outside, which often you have to. So we just wanted to say sorry to Nick for not alerting him to the fact, but we weren't really...
In race, I said that in my other video, actually.
Yeah, we weren't really in the mindset to want to...
engage. We're like...
Yeah, we were...
Feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, just kind of almost wanted to get through the day, but we arrived in Salisbury and things sort of picked up a little bit for us.
The sun was shining.
Yeah. So
we'll see you tomorrow.
Watch the space.
Cheers. Breathtaking. And that's not even the main spire, that's just the front door. Goat's head in the man's hand there. Or is it a dragon's head? Dragon's head. Oh. Stunning. You jumped it on the steps. Wonder if it's some kind of maze. We're inside this. I guess this is where the monks chilled out, but maybe it was also couldn't have been water capture. A point for people to come and collect and gather energy. We're right here by the Magna Carta, actually. I'm going to see if I can go and have a look at it, catch it on film for you, and see it for myself for the first time. Pebbles is eager to move on, though. Good boy. Well done.
Back then we didn't eat. We were getting our energy from
etheric energy,
like
energy that's in the.
These were like energy resonators.
Yeah, energy collecting devices. And we hazard even that these churches are the same. That these churches are these beautiful towers and steeples and cathedrals that we don't build today, we can't build today. Were built by people that were bigger, had technology, and they were using etheric energy. This goes beyond kind of particle or material science as we're taught, because the ether has been outlawed by modern science. But if history has been altered, then it's very possible that science could have been altered too. And so we've all been taken along a series of scientific beliefs, theories, and we built on those theories until today we have what we consider to be this very clear understanding of how things work at the atomic level and so on. But what if the atomic level is all like a ruse or a deception to hide the truth about the electromagnetic nature of this world, and that it's all vibration, it's all frequency and resonance and harmony, and all of that frequency and resonance and harmony comes together to create this beautiful thing that we call creation, our world, our universe, and it's created by some God entity or nature entity or whatever you want to call it, higher entity that's creating you and this entire experience at the same time. That's what I now see, and for me it's like in the torus field. If you can imagine like the apple as a torus field, an energetic torus field, well, our world might be like a globe or an oblate spheroid, like they say, but actually an electromagnetic oblate spheroid. And when they were creating things like these big structures, they could do them simply by altering the magnetic or the electromagnetic structure of something, and then make a stone that's 20 tons, weigh 10 kilos or whatever, you know, or nothing at all, and get it to float and do all these things and create all this magic. So that's what I see now, that our entirety of our science needs to be reviewed along with the history.
And also we think we're so advanced, but I think it's the opposite. I think we've come away from being so advanced. Yeah. We're actually, you know, you often hear people say, oh yeah, we live longer and we're better at this and we're better at that. Actually, I think we're not. We're actually probably worse than they were.
Because technology was certainly higher to be able to build those things that they do, like the Pisa. I mean, not Pisa, or Pisa, but Giza. They had technology beyond what we have today, because we can't without cranes.
We possibly didn't eat. We probably were breatharians. You know, so the whole vegan argument that we're having today probably wasn't even an argument, because it wasn't plants versus meat at all. It was just.
We were absorbing ether in the same way that we think plants might be doing. You know, plants are simply, they say, you know, it's the sun interacting with the plants, but actually it's maybe the electromagnetic ether that it's all growing into. Because if you imagine like the dendritic shapes of a leaf, for example, they mimic the dendritic forms in your lungs, like the alveoli in your lungs are formed like roots in the ground, and that all forms in some sort of electromagnetic interaction with the surrounding atmosphere or the environment or the ether. So it's a whole different way of looking at who you are and what this world is and what you were created to be a part of, you know. And the science, as the religions did, have done everything they can to divorce us from this idea, which is why I was atheist for most of my adult life. I couldn't see it, and because I was willing to accept theories like Big Bang, and without question, it was like I raised my older children on Big Bang, and you know, evolution. And now I look at it critically, and I don't accept simply because scientists say that evolution occurred, even though there's no proof of it, no real tangible proof of it, macro evolution. We just accept it, and I did too. I mean, the idea that everything came out of nothing used to vex my mind, you know, like how small or how concentrated, how much matter had to be in that one point of singularity to create this entire universe. And that idea is religious in itself, you know, the idea that out of everything will spring, out of nothing will spring everything. And all explosions, and those explosions then become super organized Fibonacci sequence type structures, like the human ear or the eye or the insects we see around us. So none of it, for me, that evolution kind of is a form of religious belief now, and I don't subscribe to it at all. I'm much happier saying that I don't know, but I think that we are of the Creator, and that if you're ever going to, I heard you say you want to maybe teach religious studies. For me, when I go around talking to people, I say, what if the story of Jesus is the story of you? And you are actually carrying the Christ life. You are the Son of God. Okay. You are the son or the daughter of God, and you are the immediate emissary of the Creator. And there should be no intermediary between you and the Creator. But religion and science certainly has diminished that absolutely. And I think on purpose, and I think it's controlled by, you know, the government and so on. So if you ever go and teach it, I would suggest you do it. Pebbles. Yeah, I would do it with a kind of true knowledge of how powerful, how wonderful we all are, and actually this.
I had a similar experience when I took studies
Really?
Yeah, about 2 years ago. I got into meditation 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I had a similar feeling. It's fascinated me, and since taking things like that, it does completely open up your perception of how you perceive reality.
Yeah.
And how your thoughts affect
Yeah, and it's like it opens say if our brain is a decoding box and it can decode certain frequencies, and so it sees this table as a material piece of wood and everything it decodes as it does, but you take these things and sometimes it allows you to see at a higher frequency and see things that you can't see now that are here all the time. And like on the DMT, I was able to see like some sort of angelic thing going on in my chest. And these angels were actually willing me to die. They wanted me to keep, with a DMT, you've got to hold your breath as long as you can.
Yeah, I've had friends who've done it, and I am very interested in trying it.
Yeah.
How many people's stories are very, very similar as well about what they see.
Yeah.
That fascinates me, that molecule could bring up those same visions in all of us.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's it's created at night as well, and when you die, it's released in your brain. So it's like we apparently are having some kind of mini death when we're having dreams and stuff. We're kind of in a different realm, if you like, and you're able to kind of see some of that on the DMT. And for that reason, I think that everybody should know about it and should be offered the opportunity to do it, because in the natural way of things, our decoders have been retarded here in this paradigm. Once upon a time, as Andrea was saying, we were higher beings, and that highness was kind of degraded over epochs, over times where we've lost ourselves. We call it maybe a mud flood or some kind of Noah's flood type event comes to the human story every few thousand years, and from there. We are reduced down and we can no longer see or perceive in the way that we once did. But when I had the DMT, I was connected to some higher entity that wasn't God. I wasn't like at the kind of top table necessarily, but I immediately knew I was part of some higher being. And that higher being, I now suggest, as I've thought about it for 5 years and done research on this subject for that long, I now think that it might be some kind of pyramidal hierarchical system, and down at the bottom of the pyramid are all us humans, and there's lots of us scurrying around, and then up one level you get to fewer electromagnetic higher beings, and then as you get to the top of the pyramid you get to God. You get to the kind of, and perhaps we're having an experience here which we keep having in some sort of reincarnation fashion until we learn certain things, until we gain certain things. And I think that once we gain that higher being, that higher self, that Christ-like enlightenment, if you like, once we gain that here, then perhaps we or the game gets to raise up higher. And that's just, like a quick overview of the sort of thesis that I talk on, and I think is empowering to people to know that, wow, we truly are part of something absolutely divine. And I like to think, obviously you don't know me, but I like to think that I'm, an out-and-out skeptic. I came at this from a totally atheistic view, and I'd done a lot of religious studies, and I started trying to write a book. I published a book about 6 or 7 years ago, and I got some money to write a second book, and I started researching on religion to try and write a book on why we're at war with each other and why Islam, Christianity, and all that sort of thing. And I realized when I started getting into deeper research, and I came across guys like Graham Hancock and David Icke and others who talk outside of the mainstream pool, and I started to hear things that I'd never heard before. Don't know if you've ever seen the documentary Zeitgeist.
I have, yeah.
That was kind of formational for me, or foundational. That one, it's on Netflix, I think, but it's worth seeing. And for me, it was like, wow, it gave me a different way of seeing the world and the potential for the world. But it took me on a journey that I would never, obviously, could have predicted. Would have, lead me to knowing that there is a higher power, that we're part of something magnificent, and that we actually have a divine spiritual purpose being here. But that spiritual purpose is being traduced. It is being it's being trodden on by some darker, call it evil, call it satanic, call it human at its dark side, whatever you want to say. But there is some thing, malevolent thing, that continues to misinform, disable, disease, and break the human story through the aegis of religion, through government, through science, as I said, and the science of who you are and how you come from, the Darwin evolution story and so on, and they get behind that, and I got behind that, and now I realize that's all designed as part of the toxin to ruin the human story. and to ruin who we are. So I go around as much as I can talking to people and saying, hey, you know what?
Do you talk to locally?
Well, I have actually I've been stood on the street once here a little while ago. Do you live locally?
I live in Nabbed.
Okay, because a friend of mine, Lisa, she lives around here and she's quite a strong activist, staunch activist. And so I was visiting her. But I plan to do more talks on this. You know, I do go to Speaker's Corner in London and talk on this. I was in Canterbury, but I tend to do at the moment more street talking. Like I talk in the streets to people because that's where I can get a ready audience. You know, people who maybe want to hear some of this stuff. But when I heard what you were saying, I was like, gosh, I've got to just offer you what I've learned, because it is outside of everything that I was 46, 47 when I took the DMT. So I had, up until that point, I had just gone along with the mainstream, even published my book just, in a mainstream mindset. And now I realize, wow, there is an electromagnetic thing going on here. We're meant to be sort of positive energy-like beings, but we're being held in the dark. You can learn this information about who and what we are and free your soul and your journey, I think, from that possible trajectory, or the trajectory that's been imposed on us by this, as I say, nefarious overlord or overpower. That's my spiel.
Totally interesting.
Cool. And my name is Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Jane. Hi,
Jenny.
Jane. Jenny?
Jenny.
Oh, Jenny. My sister is Jenny, so I shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, it's great to be someone who's also looking into the same things, because myself and my husband have been finding it really interesting to watch documentaries about, especially about Egypt, and go back to Tepe and all those.
Yeah, that's another mystery. Go Blakey Tepe.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much to now. I mean, the thing is, for me, I say to people, Graham Hancock gives very good information, but I think also that he also offers he's kind of still constrained within a certain pool. So the current version of history and so on swims in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But they don't realize that there's a deep end and a shallow end, but it's only one swimming pool. The bigger lake, the bigger dam of information is where Graham Hancock swims, and he is outside of their realm of kind of, oh no, we don't go to Graham Hancock, he's too far extreme. But I would suggest that even Graham Hancock is still swimming within a lake that is not the ocean of knowledge that is actually out there. So I've got a website that I'll give you to go and do some of your own research. Just go and check it out in your own time, of course, because you've got to work this stuff out for yourself. A friend of mine, Paul, on the plane, he's put together that stuff. So check it out. All right. Good luck. Good luck with your stuff. Nice talking to you, Jenny. Did you see that clip before I flipped the phone? That lady was properly engaged, and her partner, her pal, wasn't. And Andrew said, yeah, it turns out he was I think he might have been a physics teacher.
Well, he wasn't yet a teacher, but he was studying physics.
But yeah, they want to see a study, and I'm glad I got her expression just briefly, but that's how it was for the rest of the conversation. So just so you know, sometimes it works well. Cheers.